starting 12th of May, Malaysians under 55 years old can freely withdraw funds from EPF without any terms and conditions.
Akaun Fleksibel KWSB akan diperkenalkan sebagai akaun baru yang boleh diakses pada bila-bila masa.
Interested to know how this works or the reason behind this change? Stick around because I will uncover everything you need to know about the new EPF account tree. So just in case you haven't heard of it already, EPF has officially announced a restructuring of EPF accounts. So instead of the previous account 1 and account 2 only, the new system will have the contributors, aka you and I, allocating our funds into 3 accounts with 75% into account persaraan, formerly account 1, 15% into account sejahtera, formerly account 2, and the remaining 10% into the newly introduced Akaun Fleksibel, account number 3. For simplicity's sake, let's just call them account 1, 2 and 3 for the rest of this video. So very simply, here's how it works. Let's say if you contribute 1,000 ringgit from your monthly salary into EPF, 75% of that or 750 ringgit will be going into account 1 reserved for your retirement, which you can't withdraw until you are 55 years old. And then another 15% or 150 ringgit goes into account number 2, which you can withdraw before you are 55 years old for education, medication needs, home purchases, or to settle housing loan earlier. And lastly, the remaining 10% or 100 ringgit goes into account 3, where you can withdraw the funds anytime without any restrictions. And more importantly, you can transfer savings one way only and cannot be reversed back into the original account. Meaning you can transfer money from account 3 to account 1 and 2, or from account 2 to account 1. But transferring from account 1 to account 2 or 3 is not possible, which is obviously to prevent us from withdrawing all of our retirement funds. And according to EPF, you can apply for account 3 withdrawals as soon as your balance reaches a minimum of 50 ringgit. So you can choose to either wait for new contributions, like say when your boss pays your salaries, or you yourself self-contribute if you are self-employed, or you can also opt for a one-time initial savings transfer from your existing account 2 to the new account 3 from May 12th to August 31st, 2024. And the initial amount you can transfer from account 2 to account 3 varies depending on your current balance in your account number 2. So let's just say if you have more than 3,000 ringgit in account 2, you can redistribute following the ratio of 10 to 30 to account 3, 15 of 30 to account 2, and 5 of 30 to account 1. Still confused? Well, don't worry. Let me show you this example shown by EPF. So Adam opts for an initial transfer and has 30,000 ringgit in account number 2. Hence, 10 of 30 of 30,000 ringgit, which means 10,000 ringgit will now move to account number 3, while 15 of 30 of 30k at 15,000 ringgit will stay in account 2, and the remaining 5,000 ringgit will transfer to account 1 instead. And for those people with less than 3,000 ringgit in account 2 that choose to perform an initial transfer, like Bazli with say 2,700 ringgit, only 1,000 ringgit will be transferred to account number 3, while the remaining stays in account number 2 and no distribution to account number 1. And lastly, if you have, let's say, less than 1,000 ringgit like Adli, all of the amounts in account number 2 will be transferred to account number 3. And if no initial transfer is made, funds will remain in account 1 and 2. Meanwhile, new contributions from May 11th onwards will be distributed across the 3 new accounts. And in addition, we can apply for withdrawal easily via the KWSP iAccount website or at EPF physical offices if you have previously withdrawn from EPF. But if you do not have any withdrawal history, or if your bank account information differs from the previous withdrawal records, then you need to perform identity verification either through their self-service terminal SST at their EPF offices for withdrawals more than 10,000 ringgit, or online verification for an amount less than 10,000 ringgit. Hey, if you want to invest in the US stock market, look no further. Moomoo is the right platform for you to do so. You can invest in the US and Bursa Malaysia safely because they are regulated and licensed by the Securities Commission Malaysia. And to make it better, they have one of the cheapest packages in Malaysia, so you are growing your money just the way you want it. And before you say you don't have any extra money to invest, don't worry, they have just recently rolled out fractional shares trading, which means you can even invest in tech giants like Nvidia or Apple or Microsoft from as low as $5 only. Yeah, investing your money doesn't get any easier and accessible than now. Feel free to use my link down below to get some amazing sign up rewards quickly because the campaigns only last for a limited time only. Alright, let's get back to the video. So coming back to the topic, aren't you curious as to why our government made this move? And is this the right move for us, the public and also the country? Well, first, of course, the main objective of this entire EPF restructuring is to help the people in need of money right now, especially with the high price inflation after the COVID-19 pandemic. And also, this new structure might potentially attract new members from those self-employed or part-timer segments with higher earnings, because where on earth can you find a savings account that has no lock-in period and also pays around 5% annualized interest rate? And let's not forget, by contributing to EPF, you get to enjoy tax relief as well. So I don't know about you, but this flexible account tree sounds like a really solid option to me. But of course, I wouldn't do you justice if I did not remind you that your contributions can't be made to just account 3, but must be distributed across all 3 accounts. So in a way, it can be a little bit iffy for some people, but overall, still hardly a downside because higher allocation to account 1, which has increased from 70% to 75%, means more money saved for your retirement. So I guess the next concern we all have is whether there will be any difference in the dividend rate between these 3 accounts. Well, the good news is there are no differences. This means we will continue to get roughly 5.5% per annum of dividends based on their historical distributions, which is still much higher compared to anything offered by the bank's fixed deposits, sometimes even better than in money market funds. But then Ziet, more people withdrawing means EPF have less money, hence lower dividends, right? Well, the economist from CIMB Research mentioned that even during the pandemic, the dividend payout hovered around 5 to 6%. So he believes that EPF can sustain its solid performance following the introduction of account 3, and that EPF also expects sustainable outflow of funds at about 25 billion ringgit from account number 3 in the first year and moderating at 4 to 5 billion ringgit per year afterwards, which is much lesser than the total withdrawal loss of 145 billion ringgit from iLestari, iSinar, iCitra and Special Withdrawal Program during the COVID-19 in year 2020 and 2021. And even with this much withdrawal back in 2020 and 2021, the EPF dividends were at 5.2% and 6.1% respectively. Pretty solid, right? And not to mention that now EPF has 5% more funds from account 1. Hence, there will be more untouched funds that can be invested in long-term and also higher return instruments, while only 25% are in liquidated investments such as short-term bonds that generate lower returns. However, of course, I must say, the return will also be based on the performance of the trades done by the EPF experts. For example, if the global and domestic economies are not doing well for the year, then we can expect a lower return as EPF invests the funds in both domestic and global assets, with 46% allocated to fixed income instruments such as Malaysia government securities and 42% to equities domestically and globally as well. And as of 2023, 53% of EPF's investment income is generated from global assets and the remaining 47% from domestic assets. But I guess we can still expect a rough 5 to 6% return based on past year dividend rates history. However, like I always said, every coin has 2 sides. With account 3, those lower income groups might be tempted to overspend, and it's only gonna be worse if it's not used to support their day-to-day life expenses as intended, such as their food and utilities, but impulsive buying. So this move might be a little short-sighted, because if those people start using the money that is meant to be for future retirement unwisely, what will happen when they are older? According to a very recent study by the Chilean pension system, where they have allowed large-scale pension fund withdrawals during the COVID pandemic, like a lot of countries, these withdrawals resulted in a decrease of about 6.2% on their people's projected pension payments. In other words, you would have about 6% lesser income when you retire. And according to EPF themselves, most Malaysians do not save enough for retirement, with only 33% of active EPF members having recorded basic savings of 240,000 ringgit by age 55. And this means after the age of 55, if you were to live until say the age of 70 with only 240,000 ringgit, we will only have approximately 44 ringgit to spend per day. And if you give it say an average inflation rate of 3% per annum, it means 44 ringgit is only worth around 28 ringgit per day over 15 years. I don't know about you, but one mixed rice in Kuala Lumpur can easily cost me around 15 to 20 ringgit in today's context. So can people even survive with less than 30 ringgit per day on top of all the groceries and miscellaneous stuff? And what if we live longer beyond 70 years old with less than 240,000 ringgit? I can't even imagine. Even EPF CEO himself doesn't encourage us to opt in for the Account 3 initial transfer. So I guess you kinda get the idea of how much damage it would cause to our retirement accounts. And in the long term, this might indirectly lead to higher government debt, which means we as rakyats have to pay higher taxes just to support our government spending. Why do you ask? It's very simple. When the elderly can't afford their living, the government needs to step out to support them by giving them more cash handouts. And guess who are the ones paying the cost? It's us, the taxpayers. And who knows, maybe more subsidies cut. And while this adjustment to EPF accounts may address short-term financial challenges from the high living costs now, it's also crucial for the government to also look for long-term solutions. For example, addressing the inadequacy of the current minimum wage of 1,500 ringgit. I know, it's a double-edged sword because higher minimum wage will result in higher business costs, which would mean higher prices to consumers, and it will all circle back. I know that, but hear me out. According to Bank Negara Malaysia in 2020, the proposed living wage for a single adult was 2,600 ringgit, which adjusted for inflation to March 2024 should ideally be 2,800 ringgit based on the Malaysia CPI inflation calculator. So, like it or not, it is clear as day that our minimum wage needs to be updated to match the living wage, on top of progressive increments to prepare the people for higher inflation. And besides, the Malaysian government could consider having match contributions for lower income earners, like how our neighbor Singapore's CPF does, to encourage more savings with EPF. How does that help, you ask? A match contribution means the government, or EPF in this case, will contribute additional funds whenever an individual tops up their pension account. Basically, it's like rewarding people for saving more. Let's say James is a retail worker earning 1,500 ringgit per month, and he decided to contribute 100 ringgit monthly to his EPF account. EPF then introduces a scheme where it matches 50% of contributions for individuals earning less than 2,000 ringgit per month. So every month when James contributes 100 ringgit to his EPF account, EPF then adds an additional 50 ringgit to his account under this scheme, and yearly James contributes 1,200 ringgit, while EPF's match contributions add another 600 ringgit. Hence, James' retirement savings has increased from 1,200 to 1,800 ringgit instead. It's a win-win. But of course, I'm oversimplifying in this example. CPF's match retirement savings scheme has different eligibility and limitations as well. If you guys are interested to know more about the differences between Malaysia's EPF versus Singapore's CPF, do comment down below and I might consider covering that in a future video. But nevertheless, the restructuring of EPF accounts can be beneficial if the withdrawn funds are put to good use. But that's kind of subjective depending on who we are talking about, right? I guess at least most of you watching this video are well informed enough on how to manage your personal finances. So I'll save your time from elaborating further, because obviously, those that will hurt their retirement savings probably won't be watching this video anyway. But what say you? I love to hear your opinions on the new EPF account tree, whether you think this is a positive step by the government, or is it merely a short-sighted solution that will do more long-term damage to our economy? I'll see you in the comments down below.